You're on. Yeah, so you can be in the,
I feel like I'm separated.
oh,
And then I put your thing on here,
Oh,
but let's see.
okay. Let's call this meeting of the Results Committee to order. Do a pledge, please. Pledge
Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And the approval of the agenda.
that we approve the agenda.
Second?
3-0. There are no public comments. Approval of the September 30th minutes.
So moved.
Second?
3-0. Now we get to the meat. Review the annual performance.
I think the fastest you've ever gotten to me ever.
Yeah, the two things I think we ideally get accomplished today. And one would be to look at the rubrics for this year, and the other is to set the rubrics for next year. If we can.
Okay.
You have two that are somewhat the same, but they are drastically different.
Okay.
The first one, that you have the 18-19 overall academic rating, and that didn't change here, so I'm just making notes on that. One is what I'm going to kind of refer as the Dr. Berg evaluation, because he was here last year.
Okay.
So he's responsible for those. So that is the first where you see the 2.4 and the 2.1. This is an actual legitimate, this tool was fully implemented on the data set. So, and I want to play with it with you guys, because you three are the ones who are going to kind of take the stab at what the metrics are for the rubric. We can play with that. The good thing is, as I move them around, they instantaneously recalculate. So you can kind of see what is there. So if,
If you want to do it on there.
cool, I'll do it, yeah. So as the data, as we plug in the data, just so if we look at page 1 for K2 math,
Before we go, I can't tell which.
Okay. you're on the right one. So we're on this one first, because that's the
Okay.
2.4, 2.1.
Okay.
This is a
Oh, I
blind.
got it.
Yep, they're on one.
Not
The next one we'll talk in just a minute,
Okay.
but
All right.
as our department fills in this data, the rubric and the overall tool for you, the 1s, 2s, 3s, and 4s populate automatically. So there's no thought process involved truly with that.
That's what we're looking for.
Yeah.
Yep, so it's all based off of that change column.
Mm-hmm.
So as the change column changes, and it falls within the rubric of the front page, as do the points. Just so I left the actual calculations down to the right-hand side. So it kind of tells you the point value on each individual line. But it is weighted, so it does come back, ultimately, the lowest score you can get is a 0, or a 1. In this case, the highest is a 4, no matter what happens on this rubric. So when thinking about it, on the minimally effective, or ineffective, minimally effective, and then highly effective, that's where your true leadership comes in, and then ultimately the board and Dr. Rodriguez will agree on them. But I want to give you as many options as possible.
That's cool.
So we can walk through them. I'll play with Robin's computer so we can kind of see what they do, just so you can kind of see. The one that I have active right now in the example, the 2.4, the 2.1 example, that is literally looking at ineffective being anything less than no change. So if absolutely nothing changes, 1 point. So if it's
1 point is effective.
1 point would be ineffective based on the rubric.
But I thought for this year that if there's no change,
That's where now you're seeing the multiple pieces where I was going to kind of take you to, but we're
Yeah.
there, so let's go.
Okay.
This first year might have a different scale than moving forward, because I know you're kind of transitioning a lighter weight to academics right now, and then as the years progress, it's going to be more heavily weighted to academics and less maybe on the soft skills. So this year, highly effective might be 0. We want we're expecting no loss. So therefore, if you maintain or gain, you are highly effective. But next year, the rubric, the actual cut points of the rubric might actually be what changes, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Could we not have no change being effective and a positive change being highly effective?
That's what I would recommend.
Most definitely.
Yeah,
That's the way I was thinking.
yeah,
Yeah,
How much of a change to make it highly
Highly
effective is,
effective, yeah.
you know, because if it's like .001, then, you know,
But technically, by
Right.
you must hold the
Yeah.
line,
Right.
Yeah.
it meets the
Yeah.
criteria.
a change of greater than something
Right.
would
Yes.
be highly
Yes.
effective.
So as soon as it, whatever Robin's doing
Yeah.
is doing,
Yeah.
Because we
I
all,
can
we
show
all
you what
agree
it
for the
does.
first year,
Yeah.
effective.
effective.
This is the way I've been thinking about it. The first year is effective,
Right.
greater than a certain percentage, which is realistic, would be highly effective.
Mm-hmm.
An equal amount in the negative direction would be minimally, and then even more than that would be ineffective. And then for the second year, what was highly effective in the first year becomes effective.
Got it.
Yes.
Got it.
Yes.
Got it.
like that.
I like that, exactly,
And
yeah.
then
Yeah.
we'd have to figure out what was highly effective in the second year.
Right, right, right.
That's the way I've been thinking
Yes.
about it.
Makes
Does that make sense?
Makes
It
sense.
makes sense, I understand it, and as soon as we get up here, we can play with it just a little bit.
Okay.
Now with this, the higher we go, or the greater change we expect on highly effective, the more the system has to push.
Right.
So, and ultimately, you know, Dr. Rodriguez's goals, you know, become mine at some level, they become principals, they become teachers, they become the
Mhm.
system.
We realize
Right.
over time the percentage change,
And the percentage change will shift, so we
Yeah.
want,
because there's less,
there's gonna be less room in some areas than others, so we might have to, you know, tweak the overall formula. But the metrics themselves, I think, are founded in pretty reliable,
right.
Yeah.
understandable.
Yeah, it's just a rubric.
And it's one part of an overall evaluation.
Yeah.
So I think it's well-rounded, I think it's transparent, I like it. But as you see, those are just like, I think, the top 7 or 8 that I played around with. Moving forward into the years, kind of coming back. So as soon as we're up here, I can show you the 0 to, you know, X, and then we'll go equal the other way, and then we'll add to the totally ineffective for the ones. The other I gave you is basically, before we start making the changes and putting in the new information, it is your whole 0 kind of rubric. So the K2 formula didn't kick in, but the 56.9 right there on the 2017-18, that one didn't change. So if we look at mathematics is where I kind of know, I don't know what happened on the top one. But spring 2018-19, spring 19-20, we're expecting, you know, 62.5% of all kids, sorry, I'm on the.
You're on
I'm
the,
just
you're
moving
on the
yeah.
other one. I'm like, yeah, wait a
I don't have a
minute.
computer to mess with right now, so I was kind
Yeah,
of explaining
okay.
the other one in
Yeah.
the short term.
Yeah.
So this is what basically the next year rubric will look like. If we're holding to 0 change, we take the events of what happened in spring of 2019, we apply them to what's expected to the 1920, and we'll see what kind of change happens.
Yeah. Okay. So, I was thinking that, with the K2, that we would start, can't start with the fall scores?
It would go,
Because, you know, we get those right away. I don't know.
it wouldn't
What's-
line up with any of the
Wouldn't
other
line up,
measures.
okay.
Kind of we're looking at spring of everything
Okay.
else. And then that would,
So,
if we do fall, then we'd expect to be looking at spring, and then we're now measuring on some sort of fall to spring gain, which is fine,
which is a year of instruction.
but we normally see a dip in the fall coming off of summer and whatnot. So sometimes fall to spring growth can be slightly elevated
Okay.
from looking at spring to spring to spring at the
Okay.
same point in time.
That makes sense. Yeah, I agree with that.
One's kind of instructional, the fall to spring is
Yeah.
definitely
It's
instructional.
instructional,
Spring to
yeah.
spring is getting kind of systematic, looking
Yeah.
at what has changed in
Yeah.
the calendar year, not necessarily
And
the
when the
school
kids
year.
come back in fall, their scores are often deflated because they've not been in school.
Yep, we're just
Got
checking
it.
back into the
Yep.
school year and
Yep.
All right,
Yep,
so
makes
we
sense.
eliminate that variable.
yep, fall is instructional and
Yeah.
we use it heavily, but for accountability is a
So
little
on
bit.
this one, baseline for all, the K2 reading would be 56.1%. That's the start.
Well, that one didn't update for some reason when I pumped in the formula, so it'd be the 56.9. I'd move the 56.9 over. I don't know what happened to the top one, but I'll update it.
Oh, the 56.9 should be under 2018-19 instead of.
Yeah, that 18-19 didn't even, it was like it totally skipped my find and replace everything. The whole top box needs updated, but if we go to the
Okay.
math, let's go to math.
Let's go to
The
math.
math one took the formula, just like everything else. So you see the 62.5,
Mhm.
under spring 18-19,
Mhm.
that's the actual result from 18-19.
Okay.
So I'm applying the 62.5, that is what is expected at the end of the 2020 school year.
Right, and so this
So
column
I'm
is the
future casting the
expectations.
expectation
Got
at
it,
that
got
point.
it.
Yeah, those are the
That's what this
expectations.
column is, because I was just thinking that was our starting point. Got it. Okay, so these are the expectations.
Those are the expectations. Of course, we'll put in real data there,
Mhm.
Yeah,
but
that's right.
anything
All that
less
came out.
than 0 on
And
the
is that the
change
right IP and all
would
that?
fall under some level of
Yes.
ineffective,
Um,
for the first year at least. Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's
So it just-
broadcasting its name anymore.
Oh, there it
There
is.
you go.
Cool, now I can play.
It was there and then it blanked out when I put the Excel thing up.
It happens every now and then.
It's Daniel.
That's my fault. Yep, it's a small computer.
He broke it.
Thank you, Wizard.
Yes, thanks, Gina.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
ma'am. So I'm in the template. So this was, I kind of lovingly referred to in Dr. Burke's evaluation. So if you were to take the evaluation that you have working on now and apply it to what he did last year, these are his numbers. So we were kind of talking about, close to this one, but I kind of heard the bottom threshold being 0 for the 3-point scale.
Yes.
So boom, that's in. And then you see the points, they start
Yeah.
changing automatically.
Yeah, yeah.
So we probably, at that point, we don't want a greater than 4 here. We probably want something,
What's statistically, yeah, I was thinking two.
yeah, there's
Statistically,
so many
what's
different,
significant, Daniel?
there's so many different metrics
Mm,
through the different, sample sizes and everything else
Yeah.
that we can't just apply one level to all, but we can kind of be just understanding of some of the different metrics.
okay.
So, we are far more likely to move K2 math
Okay.
more quickly than we are, college bureau.
Okay.
So unless we want to weight every single one differently, which we didn't talk about, we kind of, for the first year, if we want 0 to be the baseline for effective,
Right.
we're probably looking at, something in this level. Just out of the upper end of this is maybe,
2.00 to above.
Did it freeze?
no, then first, it's just arguing with me a little bit.
Yeah.
Because we're gonna have to negotiate all these with,
Oh, yeah, so it's
Right.
almost,
Yeah.
we're almost just right now kind of seeing
Right.
what our baseline starting point would be.
Yeah.
Of course, Dr. Rodriguez is gonna want to negotiate, and there's probably 8 other board members that are gonna have an opinion on some kind of a negotiation as well. So, they're subject to change.
Right.
we
So-
just have to be founded in some kind of reality when we present it.
So this one was, two. There we go. What is this doing? Oh, no, I don't like your- all this
It's
is-
technology, it's not mine.
That's fine, that's fine. I get it.
It's not letting me.
That's fine. I'll just do half and way up. So we're kind of getting closer, and you see with that, We're getting closer and closer to the 3 points for the overall.
They didn't move it there.
Hmm?
They didn't move
Oh, wow. I did all that work, y'all didn't see me struggling with the
That's
keys.
just like
Working on
it
the
was
keystrokes, I didn't see
Yeah.
anything happening up there.
Wow.
Can you
Do we
refresh
have
that?
the VGA cable? I'm just gonna,
it. Aren't you?
do this VGA and not mine. It's fine.
Is this the cable here?
Nope, it's back there. You know, sometimes the oldest technology is the best. The old cables.
This is the only thing. This is the only cable.
Got it.
So tech support thing, is it plugged in?
Yeah, they rebooted it 50,000 times yet?
That first
I was
part?
gonna say, because whatever you did, it didn't change up there.
I see. Cool.
You want to think it?
Nope, I'll just be far away in the corner, but it's okay. I'm used to sitting in the corner. Anyways. Cool.
I've been thinking about more.
I've been thinking all the way too.
Okay. You're moving.
Am I moving now that I did that?
It's moving.
So should I recreate what I just did?
I don't know why it's this.
Yep.
Yeah, cool. So let's
Whatever you
move.
do, it's doing it now.
It's not doing perfect,
I love this because it's like, you know, like all the thinking's right there. I mean, we put out
No argument.
there's no argument, there's no, you know,
We don't have to, we don't have to make any judgments. If
Not
you-
this.
The data runs, you just
the
run it,
data runs
and
it,
that's
yeah.
it.
Yep, no,
Trying to make it as easy as possible.
Yeah.
no,
No,
no
just because
debate.
there's so many
No
other
debate.
metrics.
You argue about it
We can
ahead
argue
of
about-
time.
Yeah, we can
on the
argue about the
rubric,
soft
And then
side.
once you've agreed on the
Right.
rubric, then,
Yeah, yeah,
but when you get to do the actual evaluation,
Right.
you don't have to argue it.
Yeah.
It's all done way ahead of time.
yeah.
Yeah, that was the goal.
Yeah.
So this is,
You plug in the scores, you
Yeah.
get in the report card, and that's it.
There it is.
let the computer do the work.
Exactly.
Because you got that subject part in the front.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So this is looking, let me blow it just a little bit more for you guys, sorry. So this is looking at anything less than a -2 is 1 point. Kind of 1.99 to 0.09, and I'll home this in to be anything less than 0. And then anything greater than 0, less than 2 will fall under the effective,
Uh-huh.
and then anything more than 2 is highly effective. That kind of matches what your budgetary, 2% over budget, 2% under budget,
Yeah.
on budget.
Yeah.
It comes pretty close to that as
Right,
well.
right.
So it puts budgeting and academics very tightly related. So
Yeah.
the thought process of budget is going to impact our academics. And I can do everything all the way up to 10, 20, 30 points growth.
And
Um,
this can be also used for the same thing for the principals evaluation.
I'm assuming.
It's good for their data, yeah.
Well, I mean,
For their-
for their individual
Oh, yeah.
evaluation.
Matches, right.
Everything the same.
Yeah.
Because his evaluation is the district's evaluation.
Exactly.
The principals have a
And
state.
he can
They do
use
have
it.
a state
Yeah.
evaluation.
Yeah.
But do they have any kind of local, is there data included in the state?
I don't know, but there is a state evaluation that
Yeah.
they have to
Yeah.
follow too.
And every one of our schools, we kind of have a dashboard
Mhm.
that kind of goes along. I'm working on it now, so I've got some. So just as a quick example, every school gets a dashboard.
Right.
Um,
Yeah,
So you're probably gonna see this format on our presentations.
Uh-huh.
So, SC Ready the last 2 years,
Mhm.
MAP, fall, winter, spring projections,
Mhm.
what the demographics look like. We're
Right.
still filling in the absences
Right.
and discipline. So that's kind of a one pager that, hey, when we're looking at a school, it's essentially a
That's
dashboard of
great.
your school. So
And you put that together for them?
this is actually something that we're working on doing a much bigger scale, but it's something that Dr. Rodriguez had in
Yeah.
Palm Beach. They're just automated. We don't have that tool, so I'm with automation right now. It's done every quarter, but we are looking at some solutions that would automate it on a secure portal. So at any point in time, if he's going to a building or wants to look, clicks on it, this is the most real-time data.
That's excellent.
Now, the stuff at the
The
bottom
difference
stays
is
the
I
same.
have to do
they
that
don't have
myself.
goals in there, right?
No,
Goals?
no goals.
On
Nope.
the dashboard,
No.
that's the difference.
That's just dashboard.
Right, that's just the
That is, you are
dash.
driving
Yeah.
down the road,
Yep.
Right,
how's the vehicle doing?
Yeah.
gotcha.
And this is ultimately somewhat goal-free as well.
Yeah.
Well,
If you,
yeah.
if I need points, I need to reduce a gap by 2%
Right,
more.
right,
Right.
So it's
right.
self-fulfilling
Right.
goals,
Right.
but it's not a hard line goal saying you
Yeah.
must drop 5% here,
Right.
7%
Right.
here.
Right.
In counts are different,
Well.
the way they're gonna grow is different.
Right. Well, the goal is effective,
Right,
Right.
Correct.
right.
so
Yes.
whatever numbers we put in effective, that's the goal.
That's the goal.
Right.
If it exceeds the goal or it doesn't hit the goal,
Right.
that's what the other categories represent.
Yeah.
But effective is the annual goal.
So the 3 is the goal, they'd like.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
three
Effective
is
is the
where
goal.
you wanna go, it's a
Oh.
4-point.
Yeah.
This is just one part of
Right.
an overall metric.
Yeah.
Gap closures there. So this is Dr. Berg basically, and at this, we are looking at this
Okay, so
years
that,
applied to the data set.
so that evaluation is based on that rubric that we just outlined there, because I'm not sure what the other ones are.
Oh, those are just others, I had
Those are
already
other
mathematically
options.
done them out, so if you wanna say, I wanna see minus 2.5, I might already have had it, I want
I
to type
got
all
you.
the numbers
Alright,
in, just
alright.
copy and paste them in.
Okay.
And that's ultimately what we can do as the negotiation continues, and,
Right.
this 2, or, comes
Right.
here.
Right.
The 1.99 to 2 is here, then 2 plus is now highly effective.
Uh-huh.
We can have these down here listed,
Right.
year 1, year 2, year
Right.
3, year 4,
Mhm.
and then we just put them up, so we know exactly what they were at any
Yeah.
point in time. This one will forever stay, once
Right.
Once
agreed
we-
upon.
right.
This was year 1.
Yeah, yeah.
Year
That's
1 on
the
the data
baseline.
was this, next year's up, we're
Yep.
gonna up the ante
Yep.
every
Yep.
Yeah.
year, until we get to
Mhm.
the point of diminishing returns, in which we bring it back down.
And is that rubric now applied across all of the?
Every single one of those.
So can you pull up the next, just for,
Because like English language learners went down 12%, so.
So, yeah, if you go down 12%, that's gonna be a 1 no matter what, and that's gonna make highly
Yeah.
ineffective, 13, 14.
Yeah, I just want to
Yeah.
make sure I'm trying to
Yeah.
anticipate.
Yeah, so if, in the perfect world,
Issues.
the sheet that you guys are looking at, these numbers should no longer add up. So let's look at SC Ready. So the left 2 columns stay the same. I just want to check, so I'm making sure. I've tested this out quite a bit, but just to make sure.
SC Ready?
SC Ready, grades 3 to 5.
Yeah.
Yep, SC Ready, grade 6 or 5. Yep, and the example I gave you was a 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, and then a 2 and a 3.
Yeah.
Now we have 2s, 3s, and 4s.
Yeah.
So automatically, we never clicked on that tab, we never did anything, we just changed the level of the rubric.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is going to be, somebody's going to say, well, you can't apply the same rubric across all these categories.
And
So we need to think about that. We can anticipate that, I think.
So where do you think they would argue that, David? Just tell me.
I think they might look and say, well, we should, Hispanic, it's 1.6%. So if Bert did that, this guy should do 3.2.
And there's more than likely gonna be conversation around why is closing the achievement gap not rated higher than performance of the all, there could be that type of conversation as well. Don't we rate,
Any, any thought about adding this metric that Joan Deary sent us?
I thought about John Deere's, and if we increase 2% every year,
Yeah, we're gonna get to
We're
the
gonna
state.
get there.
She's,
Yep,
have you
and-
seen this?
Yep, I've seen that. So the magic of that is, those are percents. So we're comparing roughly 5 to 700, depending if it's African American or ELs at any grade level, to roughly 7,000, 8,000. So the percentages are we can compare percentages, but I think 7th grade, as I recall, 7th grade Hispanic, that change in that differential in percentage is 1 student.
Mm.
So when you look at the end count, is when you start thinking like, wow, we only need to move 20 students and we're at the state.
Right.
So yeah, we could do the 2% a year, but 2% of one kid is, we're still have to move that whole student.
I have a problem, and the problem is expectations for our grades after grade 3. Our scores are so low at grade 3 that to realize that you're gonna make up for what we've failed to do in grade K through 3 at a equal level that we will hope to achieve in grades K through 3 for the future, is, the baseline is much more, it's not the same kind of a baseline, and the higher grades you go, the more they're behind. You know? So by the time they get to the juniors in high school, those people that were deficient at grade 3, they're likely to be way behind because it doesn't get easier.
Right.
So that makes his goal more difficult.
It makes that goal more difficult, and that's my problem with Joan's feeling that it ought to be a universal increase every year on those grades. It can't be. It's not realistic. I mean, we should ask, that should be something we want to try to do, but achieving that is gonna be heck of a lot harder than bringing it up from the K through 3.
Well, the academic committee yesterday, one of our priorities is really that primary.
Yeah, all that.
That if we, the problem with that is we can't ignore the upper grades.
Oh, I know,
But
no,
if
no,
we're
no.
going to
Exactly.
really start making a difference, we need to shift some funding then. Anyways, but that's for
Yes,
another,
yes.
if we can get the board to buy into that.
Yes, I absolutely agree, but I'm just really concerned about that Joan is an ivory tower view of how you look at that.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to give Frank a goal that is not reasonably achievable. And
Right.
I don't believe that a constant 2% growth is gonna be reasonably achievable until we get this cohort that we start really focusing on, and we get 3rd grade math scores up to standards across the board. Then we can say, keep it up.
And I also, my concern with this, and maybe, maybe I'm speaking incorrectly, I have a greater concern with the Hispanic because our influx, our coming and going of Hispanic kids, we don't know that that's the same across the state.
It's not.
Yeah, so that's the problem.
That's even worse.
Now, our African American kids, perhaps,
Yes.
they're probably
Yes.
more stable.
Yes.
But our Hispanic
Yes.
kids,
Yes.
how do we, I hate to measure, we
And our
could be
military
oranges.
kids too.
We could be oranges and they're apples because they're migrant workers or whoever, they're Hispanic, they come, they stay. Ours, ping pong. I believe that's,
Exactly, and our military kids have the same
Yeah.
issue,
yeah.
because they
So-
come from all kinds of different school districts.
Yeah, my feeling is I really don't give a damn about state averages.
Yeah.
I really don't.
I agree.
Because if
You're
you
looking
ask
at
me
North
for a state
Carolina.
average, I would say, what's the highest state average in the country? That's where we're going.
Yeah.
So I don't really care
Okay.
too much.
I
about
just thought I just wanted to bring it up.
No,
just-
There's
okay.
an underlying thing with state averages.
Yeah. Because then
It's an
somebody said.
underlying assumption.
It's a low
in
bar.
state, yeah, exactly.
Yes, that's what
It's
people
saying
will say.
South Carolina is the
Mine's
double
lowest
state,
Yeah.
so.
Yep.
But it is good to have someone in the community doing that, honestly.
Yeah,
It keeps us grounded. It keeps the focus.
She's
Yeah.
good with the numbers.
And as long as we're all already focused on that,
If
Right.
we do this right,
we're good. Now, if
We'll
that's
get
catching
there.
us surprise, like we didn't know that there was an achievement gap, then there's a problem.
Right.
But we all know that, there's an
Yeah.
achievement gap. We've realized that it's been there, it's taken years and years and years and years and years to
Yeah.
get to where it is.
It's gonna
It's gonna
take
take us
years
years
to
and years
fix.
and years to fix it.
Yes.
But we have to keep, and like you were saying with academics, early literacy is, key priority.
Yeah.
How does that align with
Yeah.
this part of the tool? We're putting K2 math there, we're looking at we're looking at the academics and the progression through. We can weight them differently if we need to, but I definitely think that the rubric aligns with
as
them.
long as we increase every year, we'll get.
That's
where we
right.
want.
Yes, yes.
Get where we want.
Increase every year is a mandatory.
Right,
That's
But to
that's
say
the goal
that
we're
what-
setting.
Right.
To say that it's going to go a certain percent every year,
We don't know that.
And that's, it's rough with some of the assessments, it's rough with some of the measures. We could safely say that with MAP. We can assume that there should be growth annually with MAP. The test is designed to measure growth. None of these other metrics are designed to measure growth in the outcome. They're achievement based. So to have measured scale growth, that's very industrial in its thought. But I think this is getting into a pretty good place as far as an academic rubric. I don't think anybody can question, if in 2 or 3 years you say, hey, Frank Rodriguez is doing a great job in academics, well, you're gonna have 2 or 3 of these,
Yep.
along with financials and
Right,
interpersonal
right,
skills and
right.
everything else, and say,
right?
you might not think that interpersonal skills are as important, but the board voted on this and we do, we're in a good place. So I think it's
Well,
So-
interpersonal skills should contribute to.
most
Yeah.
definitely,
Right.
but
And they're much more important the first couple of years than the first
Yeah.
oh
couple
yeah,
of years.
setting the
Yes.
tone, the culture, how much
You have
have
to
we
change the
taught
culture.
culture?
And that's the first couple of
That's-
years,
yeah.
but then it gets less and less important.
Right.
So it becomes your
It
organization.
becomes your organization, and you guys, you all change cultures in places, you realize that, yeah.
So when we put that rubric in that we just put in,
yes.
that changed the score.
That did change the score from 2.4 and a 2.1 to a 3.0 and a 2.
Can you,
I think, okay, I'm trying to think if it's valid.
oh,
And, okay, so we're saying Bird was effective
Yeah.
right,
I'd agree with
in
that.
achievement, but he
Right.
was less than effective in gap closure.
Right.
yeah, but he was pretty
He was
close.
still,
Yeah,
but less than.
yeah,
That's what, okay, I'm just trying to get validity.
right,
That squares with my,
Yeah.
yeah,
Intuitive belief of what actually happened.
right, right.
I mean,
That's-
academically,
that's-
we see it, we see the report cards grew,
Yeah.
we had
Yeah.
overall growth with
Yeah.
academics.
Yeah,
Did we,
but not as much in the gap.
did we target gaps as hard as we targeted everything else? Probably not as much, and.
But we will now.
but we will now.
Right,
Can we go to the college ready and career
Yes.
ready?
most definitely. So each metric is measured. College ready independently from career ready, and then independently from and or. All 4 are included.
I think our goal was or.
And we can make it just or.
Well,
We
you
can make
can,
it and or.
I think our goal, this group,
Okay.
goal was either college or career ready, one
Right,
of
one or
those.
the other,
As long as you're one of those, you're okay.
right.
That we can do.
Yeah, yeah.
And now, does this, so these scores are, that's different, these go in, these do not, there's a final tally is what I'm trying to say for these scores, right?
Yes, they're all in the final tally.
They're all in that one that we saw.
They're all in the final.
Oh, the achievement and the gap.
Mhm. Which I can take them out, it's just gonna overall impact the overall point value of every square or every rectangle in the chart. Other than that, it's not gonna,
Let me catch up to where you guys are.
Okay, so the gap, I guess, is still, we would be
Pages numbered.
measuring the, because we still have the different ethnicities.
correct.
Yeah,
Yep,
okay.
everything-
I see that.
Everything's the same, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Everything is reported exactly the same.
Right, okay,
Yeah.
so you're saying this is already included in
In that final score
all
that
of
we
the
the
saw.
final score? All right.
Yeah,
And I can
okay.
take, you want just or? I mean, they're all
Yeah,
4 are in
just-
there.
Yes, just.
Just
But I'll
four.
take out, I'll
Just
take
four.
out, I won't mess with the.
Because I don't think
the
it's going to
screen's
be
freezing
career
right
and college ready.
now. Hmm?
Because if you're college, I don't think you can be and.
You can.
You're either career ready or you're college
The
ready.
ultimate goal
And if you're
for-
college ready, that means you're not
Yes.
ready to start a career yet.
Yeah, that's true, probably.
That's another way to look at it.
So I'll do the or back at the desk, and I can send it to Robin just to kind of show you what the changes do.
Okay.
Do you want these still here as indicators, or do you want them totally removed?
I mean, do we want to see them? Because don't, we see them on the report
We
card,
see 'em
right?
on
Never see out there.
Yeah, we don't need to see.
I think that if we keep them on here, people will be confused and they'll
Right,
want
right.
them.
Right, give them something about it.
Yeah, exactly,
They're gonna-
exactly.
they're
right.
gonna-
Yeah,
Perfect.
because really, this is our bottom line,
Right.
college or
Right,
career
right,
ready,
right.
correct?
That's the goal.
Yeah, that's the
Right.
goal. Yeah, so let's take it off, because you're right, people will then say, well, why aren't we, yeah.
I want to break it.
I like this.
If I take it out, I'll have to rewrite the
Yeah,
whole
that's
formula,
fine.
so
Yeah,
easily done.
I like this.
I do too,
I like
And then
good
I
work.
Is it realistic for the second year to say that what was highly effective this year will just be effective next year?
Well,
Depends on what we say.
yeah, I
What we say
think,
is highly effective, you know, with,
Like 2%, would
Okay.
2% then just be effective?
well, I would say
And highly would be-
effective is maybe 1% to 2%. If we don't have any,
That's what I'm
growth,
thinking.
yeah,
yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
I like
so if we
that.
don't have any growth, that's not effective after the first year, right?
Right,
If we don't have any increase in
right,
scores.
right.
So maybe 1 to 2%
2%,
is effective.
greater than 2.
Greater than 2 is highly effective.
Yeah,
Does that make sense? Or what are you thinking, Dave?
well, that's basically the same as year one.
Right.
mhm,
So we're really moving, kind of the thought process I'm hearing you say, Mr. Sturgeon, we're moving 2 to the base,
yeah,
the base here.
right.
Yeah, 2 to, I was thinking,
See, I was thinking a 1% increase, any kind, well,
see, I was thinking like 2 to 4 would be
Would be
effective, and
effective.
anything greater than 4 would be highly effective. I don't know if that's achievable. I
yeah.
have to have Frank tell me that. but-
Yeah, what's a 1% increase look like? I guess would be a question. What do you think, Daniel? 1% increases?
1% increase on the rubric, or 1% increase on every single measure?
Every single.
Every single measure.
Every single measure would be somewhere in the 1%, kind of in the minimally to effective. It's not, what we see over time, we're growing more than that.
Okay, so then 2,
Statistical error.
yeah, so then 2, yeah. So then we maybe need that 2% there,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, a good point, David.
I think so.
Yeah,
And then highly effective would be greater than 4%.
greater than 4%, yeah.
Yeah, there are some variables that we
We can't
cannot, you know,
account for.
we can have testing on a bad day, I mean, you know,
Yeah.
there's a lot of,
We can't
a lot
go out,
of things.
yeah, we can't go out to the third year, I don't think, because we have to find.
No, exactly.
Exactly,
No,
I think
right.
you're exactly, yeah.
You're right. We have to see what our progress
Yeah,
was.
the most
Yeah.
we can do is go 1 year ahead.
Yeah.
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
then we'll just have to reconvene, and I hope it's the 3 of us again. Because you guys are, so, it's such a good group to work with.
So,
I feel the same way, we're actually getting stuff done.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, this is like the most fun I've had in a long time. So the way this works, if you want to see, like, if we replicated what happened in the spring of 2019, basically in the spring of 2021, it'd be 2.6 and a 2.1.
Mhm.
So that's kind of the operation.
Yeah.
Because we just take the
We would've
river,
gone
move it on
backwards
top of
again.
each other, and it
Yeah.
places out. So what that says is not enough focus on gap.
Right, right, right.
You have more opportunities to gain points on closing the gap
Yeah.
than you do when they all group.
Yeah.
Right,
So while they're not weighted more, there's more of them.
Exactly.
So close the gap. If you close the gap,
Right.
the all, of course, will move.
Mhm.
So it is still on the gap as the focus.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the percentage on this is a lot higher the second team too.
Uh-huh.
Goes 35, so
Right.
second team.
Yeah.
I like this.
Well, this is, I'm very proud of the work, guys. It looks great.
Yeah, this is just super.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Just gotta make sure we thought it all through.
And it's pretty agile of a program, so
Right.
if when we get to the
Right.
larger board, or if with Dr. Rodriguez, someone says, hey, we want double points on this, or, and if that's the consensus, we can do that mathematically.
This
and
is,
kinda see
this
what it
is
does.
Occam's razor, you know, this is the simple
Yeah.
solution to a very complex problem. And that's what we need to have.
So what do you think the greatest, from our other board members, what kind of questions are we gonna get? Can
I
you
have a hard time
anticipate any?
thinking like some of the
I
other
know.
ones.
I think we've said this a couple times. I know I've said it at the academic committee, that our first, that from this year, we're looking for stable. We're, you know, you're staying,
It's
stability.
unrealistic because he hasn't had a chance to build a
Right.
team.
I think that might be challenged by some.
It might be, but I would
I
argue.
just, I mean, right, I mean,
would argue
right,
that based on a lot of experience, you can't.
right. He hasn't even, he's just had a chance to diagnose the problems and to, this is
He
that,
hasn't diagnosed it, he hasn't had a chance.
Right.
to-
Right.
to evaluate the team and the culture.
right,
He hasn't had any ability. First year he does that.
I'm not as concerned with other members of the board as I want to make sure that Frank is
Oh,
comfortable.
we're gonna
Yes.
do this to Frank and he's
Yeah.
gonna,
That Frank is
he's gonna
comfortable
agree before
Right.
we
and
go.
says that, yep,
Right.
and he gets down to his principles and say, I'm gonna be evaluated
Yeah.
on this, for this measure, and you are too.
Yep. That's why, I think we should give it to Frank as soon as, I mean, if we agree
Yeah.
on this,
Yeah.
we should give it to him and say, Frank, this is the way we're thinking.
Yeah,
yeah,
And
definitely
Go to the
before,
board,
yeah.
say, Frank has already agreed,
Right.
because in that SMART thing, he owns the A,
Right.
the achievable.
Right,
He owns that part of SMART.
yeah,
So I'd like to give it to him and say, look, this is what we're thinking, Frank, what do you
yeah,
think? And then when we go to the board, say, we've already given this to Frank, he says they're realistic.
yeah,
And then, yeah, we'll have the arguments.
no.
Why is that a blue banner?
Yeah, we'll get some of that.
Yeah,
Smile to grin stuff.
yeah,
District colors.
yeah.
this is great, Daniel, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Yes,
It's-
Yeah,
I
I
really,
really
really
like
appreciate
it.
this.
Hope it's not the last meeting. I mean, I hope this flies through really well. This is the last meeting, but if not, I hope it's not the last meeting.
At least two more.
Two
Well,
more.
this is gonna be living, because as David said, we're gonna see what happens this year, and the next year, and every year, we're gonna have to look at this, really.
Right.
Because
Yeah, we have to,
we have to adjust to growth, and hopefully we got that growth. And if we don't have it, then we're gonna have to really dig into why.
right,
And it's gonna give us the opportunity to have some data to say, this is why we need more resources in this area.
right. So the other thing we talked about as a committee is the three of us actually doing the instrument. Not this part, of course, but the soft skills, for us to go and do one just to,
Oh, well, he just showed us.
he did that
Yes.
part. But what about the, I thought we talked about going through the rubric for,
Exactly.
in the other areas and just doing it ourselves, just as a practice,
Oh,
not,
yeah.
And
we
working
should
at the
practice.
budget.
yeah,
I
before
Yeah,
we.
he took
I agree.
metrics off.
I think we should not do it now, though. I think we maybe after the first year,
Okay,
we got a little more time to evaluate
except
the
aren't
soft
we,
And then
skills.
we
when are we
can
gonna,
change it.
but we can't give it to the board until we do that then, right?
I don't think, what's the hurry? What's the hurry?
You don't think
For
there's any
something
hurry?
that they're gonna be filling out in October.
No?
Yeah, this is
This
really
is
the,
true.
this is
Yeah.
the hurry part.
This is the hurry.
Yes,
Because
yes,
The soft
you base
skills-
your budget.
Okay.
Yeah,
Got
soft
lots of
skills
time.
don't affect
Okay.
the budget.
All right.
But if you
Good
do a
point.
practice, I'd like to have a little more data,
okay,
you know, as far as for the
for
soft
us,
skill
yeah,
evaluation.
okay,
Yeah,
And
This is a
Maybe
two,
for
this is a
sure.
two.
yeah, just to test the tool, actually.
to test the tool is
Right.
what I was thinking.
Right.
That's
Um,
what I was
And
thinking.
then we, you know,
Does it work? But I think we might have, well,
didn't we share it with them originally? Did we ever share it with
Yeah.
the whole board
Yeah.
that? But-
We shared the template.
The
You
template
shared
and
the, you
everything.
shared the
You got a
template,
template?
Yeah.
you shared the template.
Yeah, okay.
And the 90 day is pretty similar to the soil
Well,
cycle.
Right.
it is. It's a good,
Yeah.
remember, we wanted that to be the introduction
Right.
That's true.
to using the
Okay.
1 to 4.
Because we use those categories
Mhm.
and we use the.
Yeah, and this tests the metrics, so maybe we don't need to test it.
Yep.
Yeah, because you know, I have the advantage of having seen the results from them.
Yeah,
And it seemed to work.
good.
Good, good.
There were very few NAs, very few. And that's usually my measure.
Mm.
I didn't get any questions, I don't know if you all got any questions, but I only got one question about the whole thing. Everybody got to fill it out,
Yeah.
and there were very few blanks, very few. So I
Shouldn't
think
have
it
been any
worked.
blanks. We didn't have NA on there.
There's
did we?
nothing that I didn't see that
But you knew somebody
But,
was.
Yeah.
but you had some, but you.
Yeah,
yeah.
So we had some blanks, but it wasn't many,
okay.
so it worked, I think it
How about-
worked
how
well.
about
The only
the-
thing
how
we
about
need
the-
to remember on the next is to put a
Put their
place
names.
for, on the evaluation for you to put your name on it.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what, I wrote my name on the top of every page because I wrote comments under each of the
Yes.
evaluations.
You're the only one that did that, yep.
Because I was in my mind why I was giving that
Ah,
score,
okay.
and I thought, Frank's gonna look
Good
at
way to
this,
do it.
and you won't have to flip back. Whose am I looking at now? So I wrote my name across the top of every page.
That's
So
a
he
good
looks up and goes,
idea.
this is Rubine. Yeah, of course she did
Yeah,
that.
that's a
you
good
know?
idea. That's good
So-
That's
idea.
that educational background.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously.
Put your name at the top of every page.
Yep.
Now, the
How
ultimate,
about- how
get an
about-
Excel, you
But
just
yeah,
do
it
an
worked
Excel,
well,
and
so-
automatically does
Yeah.
everything for you.
How about the comments pieces? Did you get a lot of comments?
Some,
Not all?
yeah, I mean, some were effusive.
Yeah.
I feel badly. I wrote mine in chicken scratch. I should
But
I-
yeah,
I-
you
Typed them
were all
out.
through it.
I
Yeah.
printed mine.
There wasn't too much, there weren't, you know, a lot of
Yeah.
them.
Well, I did get the one question. Did you guys get it? Or did it just came to the officers? There's not enough room to write on here. Can I, and I'm like,
Do an attachment.
yeah, yeah. So that was the one.
Yeah, I was
question.
gonna respond to it, but I thought that'd be insulting.
Yeah,
So it worked, so
Yeah.
that's, the 90-day worked well, so we know the soft skill piece worked. We just saw that this piece works well.
I'll go through the last
So
round of
maybe-
testing on
maybe
it.
you don't have to
I'll
test,
clean it
so
yeah,
up.
Clean it up, and then we'll get it to Frank.
Tomorrow morning to Robin, is that a good timeline? I mean, is that,
that's great.
Give him
Second
a
test it this afternoon,
heads
get
up,
the
it's
format.
coming, take
Yeah.
a look at it.
yeah.
Tell us what
Do
you
you
think.
agree
Yeah.
on these goals?
Yeah.
Do you think they're realistic? And if he says yes, then I'll do a little write-up wrapper
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
saying, you know, this is the timing, this is
Yeah.
how it works.
and you'll
And,
brief him on it,
Great.
And
Brief it.
we'll hand it out.
Right.
Frank?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, do you want him to meet with you all to discuss the percentages or what? Or is
That's
it?
a good idea.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, the reason why I thought of 2 more meetings would be one with him meeting with you all as you all determine what the percentages are the base, and he can give you his rationale, and you all could do that.
Yeah.
Then the second meeting would be, after you do that with him, you give it to the board, and then whatever comes out of the board,
You might have to.
you might have to adjust or not adjust, but that is what I was thinking of the second meeting would be.
Okay, yeah, the second,
Yeah.
I know that we're gonna have that meeting.
Yeah.
So,
So
we can schedule, after you give it to.
schedule a meeting with him.
Mhm.
Yes.
We'll
Okay.
get this to him tomorrow, and then
Yeah.
try to find out what his availability
Yeah.
is.
Just let us know.
And if all 3 of us can't make it, any one of us can sit with him and talk to him
Yeah.
about it. Doesn't need to be all. So between the 3 of us, we'll be available.
Yeah. Right.
All right, so we did our recap, we did our discussions, I guess we can adjourn, but before we do, I think we did a hell of a job. Thank you both.
I think, like I said,
Thank you,
I
thank
want
you,
to
Dan.
publicly say this is a great committee.
We actually got stuff done.
Yeah, it was really.
I think the
Great
product,
feeling.
the product is going
It's
to,
fun.
gonna last a while.
I think
I
so too.
think that
I'm all
it's,
set.
Setting the tone.
it's got the
For the way you
rigor, it's got
Yeah.
the common sense, look.
Sets the tone, this is the way things should be done.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
All right.
We're adjourned.
Thank you.